Hello there. In this video, I'm going to be explaining EQ in 5 minutes. So here we go. We have this drum loop here that I'm going to use to demonstrate. Sounds pretty good. So first off, if you don't know how an EQ works, basically on our x-axis here, all the way on the left, we have our low bass frequencies. All the way on the right, we have our high treble frequencies. And in the middle, we have our mids. Up is increasing volume, and down is decreasing volume. We have three main shapes that we can use. First, we have a peak, which can also be known as a bell, and it looks like this. You can adjust the shape of the bell so it is wider or it is narrower. The opposite of a peak is a notch, which looks like that. You can do the same thing with the notch, of course. Now, our next type of shape, we have our high pass and our low pass. A low pass filter allows the low frequencies to pass while cutting the high frequencies away. This is what that sounds like. We first heard the kick drum when the filter was closed. We use the word closed to refer when the filter is letting less frequencies pass. Then as we opened the filter, we could hear more of the snare, and then eventually we could hear the entire loop. Now this will be in reverse if we use a high pass filter. A high pass filter allows you to hear the high frequencies while cutting the low frequencies. Pretty self-explanatory. Now these frequencies can also, these filters can also have resonance on them. That resonance is just this peak here. So right where the filter is opening and closing, there will be this peak right there, which increases the volume just temporarily as we're going through the filter, which sounds like this. There you go. And this goes the same if you have a low pass as well. And then finally, our last type is a shelf. So a low shelf is kind of like a notch, except it's just a one direction. So instead of being a little bell shape, it just is a double curve down. And that's a low shelf. And then we have a high shelf on the other end there. And then these five in the middle by default are peaking or notch. With that out of the way, I'm going to explain how we use EQ. So if I wanted to hear a little bit more of the kick drum in this mix, I would maybe use a low shelf and bring up this low frequency area. I do that because the kick drum has a lot of bass frequencies and is mostly in the low area of the spectrum. That's really loud and quite an extreme example, but I'm just doing it if your ear is a little undeveloped and you're not sure what to listen for. Same thing goes if I want some more high end. Now, if I wanted to focus on a specific area of the spectrum, I could do that with a peak filter. Or the reverse with a notch. And if I wanted to isolate all but one, maybe the low end, I could throw a low pass like that. Understanding the fundamentals of how it works is a little bit different than understanding how to use it. That's usually where people run into some issues. So what I like to think of when I'm EQing things is I like to think of all of the different sections of my track as puzzle pieces, and I use the EQ to cut the pieces to make sure that they fit with each other. So let's say I have a bass drum or a drum loop like this, and then I have maybe a bass guitar, and then I have, I don't know, some keys up in the mids, let's say. If I wanted to make these fit together, I would cut frequencies. We say it's a cut when you reduce the volume. And then I would boost the frequencies on the other instrument. So let's say for the keys, I might high pass the keys because if they're only in the midsection and there's no bass, then I don't even need any frequencies down here anyway because you're not hearing them. They're just going to get in the way and interfere with the bass. So I might high pass the keys. And then if I were to go to the bass, pretend this is a separate EQ, then I could low pass the bass. So now these two things don't interfere with each other. They're like puzzle pieces. They fit together. And I could even go a little farther and say, okay, if I didn't want to do an extreme cut like that, then I could maybe, okay, I'll boost some of the keys right here, and then on the bass, I'll cut that same frequency. So we're helping things fit together like a puzzle piece. So that's EQing. If you want to support me, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I also have an album coming out, a full-length album on the 29th. That's this Friday. There will be a link down in the description where you can stream my album completely implicit, or pre-save it if it's before the 29th. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.